Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner Classic Lesson Known Classics. This is episode number 35, 22, Doubleshot 3416. Well, we're here reviewing, and don't worry, we'll not be a two-parter this time like it was last time. So we're here discussing, first, 112 Labors, which is a trade paperback that collects, well, it's on here anyways, collects issues 212 to 222, along with Adventure Comics 413 to 430. Basically, 12 Labors is this. Wonder Woman is pretty much back in Justice League. She's basically back to normal. They got rid of all the power stuff that the series had to go through for a few years because they went down for the Bronze Age. And she really has no memory throughout this period of time. Also, I think I did notice, though, when I was looking at the issues themselves for the Diana Prince, Wonder Woman Diana Prince issues, which lasted, I think, for like 176, I think it was. Lasted about 206, I think it was. This was like 30, 40 issues. It actually lasted for about 4 or 5 years. And, of course, Denny O'Neil was the one who did the start of it, but then he left. So it was worked there for a lot of time, and then they put it back. I theorize probably the reason why that it ended when it did is because it probably wasn't selling very well. And despite the fact having the stuff restored, issue 204, the book just didn't do much until 212 to finally address this stuff. So she has apparently no memory of I Chang. She's very curious about I Chang, her mentor, the one taught her martial arts, and also she's wondering where Steve is. And basically, she's also of a trial process of rejoining Justice League. She's basically back to Justice League anyways, but basically a trial process. So each issue has a member of the Justice League keep an eye on her in each issue. Starting with the fellow founding members of Justice League. Superman, Batman, Flash, Green Lantern. Not Martian Manhunter. He's not here. But we do have an issue where we have the Atom, Green Arrow, Black Canary. The Atom issue has her fight Kronos. Yeah, classic villain Kronos, which he does point out that the last time he fought Wonder Woman was back in issue 26 of Justice League America in the previous decade. Yes. And by the end, of course, she sorts her memories out. She's basically restored back now with all this trial process and this labors. And, well, that's it. It's an overall really excellent storyline. Now, the storyline itself had more than one writer. You're like, really? It had more than one writer? Oh, yeah. You're probably all thinking, like, who wrote this storyline? And it's really interesting. So, there were 3 different writers. They started with Len Wein on the storyline. Yes, he was the original writer who wrote this, but he was not the only writer. Yeah, it's surprising this was because it's called the 12 Labors. It's only 11 issues. Yes. For those of you curious, though, how long did Len Wein stay on the storyline for? He did the opening issue. Then we have Carrie Bates, who does issue 213, which focused on the Flash. 214, which is a issue where she's up with the Green Lantern, and it's written by Elias Migan. Now, by the way, despite the fact being a 100-page giant, only the opening story is the only one to worry about because all the rest of the issues in this book are all reprints. Yep, all reprints. So, Corky Kurt Swan, the artwork here, for issue number 215 is basically Carrie Bates once again, but this time basically dealing with Aquaman. So, now you're probably thinking, like, aside from Kronos, is there like classic villain? Well, in the opening issue, she takes on the Cavalier, an old school Batman villain. Yeah, this takes on in the opening issue. In 213, takes on Giant Cybernaut. For 214, it's Henry Tudor. Yeah, despite the fact it's more like... And then we have stuff would look like Poseidon, but no, it's actually Mars, aka frickin' Ares, the god of war. Yes. And it's Aquaman works, interesting. And then 216, where she teams with the Black Canary for an issue. LAS Megan doesn't right for this one. Yeah, I like the Black Canary one. And the next issue obviously is, of course, the time of Green Arrow. Still fighting basically. Of course, you also like a really another old school villain known as Duke of Deception. The Earth 1 version didn't really appear much at all. Not really. This was the first time he appeared since issue 148. He would actually return in 254 and 261. And that's it. But, by the way, there's also backup features in this one. 217, but the reprints. For 218, teams up with, well, we have Phantom Stranger and Red Tornado. Yeah, Phantom Stranger here is interesting. But he actually is in a backup story. Oh, and who's the villain she finds in the backup story? Old school Just Like villain Felix Faust. It's actually the only one where it has two stories, and the other story is actually a new story, not a reprint. Both stories done by Martin Paristo with Kurt Saffenberger on the artwork. For 219, teams up with Elongated Man. Let's take on McChasm, a villain who pretty much appeared only in this one issue. Yeah, only this one issue. And once again, Martin Peter with Kurt Swan on the artwork. For issue number 220, this is the one which takes on Kronos. Well, this is though technically one of them does not really appear in this issue, it's a bioenergy duplicate of her. Yes. For 221, Hawkman's turn. This time we have two old school Wonder Villains, Dr. Cyber and Dr. Moon. Dr. Cyber debuted in 179. Yeah, Danny Neal created her. And she's still around. Yeah, she's not dead. She didn't appear a lot, very much. She put a lot in one of her last appearance being in issue 321. For those of you curious, though, of course, that was the Earth 1 version of the character. So, did she return post-crisis? She did. Did she appear as much as she did in the... Well, the thing is, her first appearance, the post-Flash version, was not until issue of JLA 61. And she fought one of only 2 issues. She basically was fighting in Power Company of all places. There is a version of her in the post-Flashpoint continuity. And she was actually a Greg Rucka creation, this one. And mostly put, she was there for issue 5 and died in issue 16 of that volume. She also has a boy named Dr. Moon. Dr. Moon, a Batman villain who currently is deceased in the pages of Manhunter. Yeah. In 222, the final issue of this whole storyline, this involves Batman with Martin Peter still on the writing here with Jose Diablo on the artwork. So, pretty much basically they deal with this guy called Wade Dizzle, who actually died in this issue, and we do more bio duplicates. But despite being called 12 labors, I'm guessing the reason why we have 12 different stories because one of the stories had 2 stories in it. But really good storyline. I give it roughly a 9 out of 10. It's a really good storyline. Next up we have is Adventure Comics. Now, I should point out, though, for these issues now, Supergirl herself is here from, as the opening issue, from 413 to pretty much 425. Or most of the point, she fights these one-shot villains. There is other features in the book. Now, in 413, there's a reprint of a Hawkman story, and then we have Satana. Now, Satana, this was not. Now, there's another Hawkman story. Now, this would be the kind of the start. So, this would kind of be the start of Satana's feature, which will last until about 419. Also, they with a villain called Giganto. It fights, I think it was like Gargantuous, I think it's called. Yes, so we also have a supporting character named Well, it's basically Lex Luthor's niece. Yeah, where pretty much basically she is a supporting character for Supergirl, and by the time that Supergirl wraps a feature book, she's basically written out of comics. Yeah. Gorganish is basically a creature. Yeah, so that's kind of what it is now. There's also a second in 414. There is another Supergirl story where it's basically dealing with kidnappers. Occasionally, you might find two stories featuring Supergirl, but a lot of times just one. You have Lee Ween here do the writing. In the case of 415, it's her basically on Space Marauders, and then in the backup story, it's in the second story, it's basically her deal with some satellites, and then you have Zatanna deal with a woman named Allura, who is a enemy of Zatanna. Didn't appear very much. No. This would be her solo appearance in Adventure Comics. Debuted in Justice League America 51. I think this was her first appearance in Justice League America since 110. Yeah. Now, 416, don't need to worry with this one because the whole issue is a reprint. So, we're going to skip this one. Going straight to 417. Yeah, there is a Shining Enchantress story in this issue, but those are reprints. The Vigilante issue is called Cop Killer, done by Marv Pope and Steve Skeets, where it's mostly about him investigating a cop killer, which apparently one of the officers killed was a Chinese police officer. And he does find the killer, works with a woman in the story, and he's like, and that's like, you leaving Fresno? He's like, yeah, I'm going back to Chicago. It's a very interesting issue. It's sad, though, he only stays in San Francisco for one issue. Yeah. Now, Vigilante's feature in this book is mostly a recurring feature. It's not a regular stable feature. He's only here for a handful of issues. I think it was like 426, one of the main issues here. After the issue, he's done. I believe so. So, Face the Dragon, that's in 418, takes on a guy called Dr. Zizun. Yeah, he is a character who debuted in Batman, which they had him pop up in this issue here for one issue. He actually is dead. He got killed on page of Peacemaker. By 418, 419 is a feature featuring Black Canary, which I've discussed those stories already, and I think it was Birds by Black Canary, yes. There was also a Dr. Midnight feature, which is not a reprint. Yeah, it's an original story. Yeah. Not really sure why they gave Dr. Midnight feature. It was weird. It's one of a handful of stories. 419, it's like, oh, we have this criminal who's not really there. For Zatanna, we write off the character of Gorganchos, who also apparently had a thing for Zatanna that didn't really go anywhere at all. I believe like 419 was the last Black Canary and also a Zatanna story. I believe so. And then we have 420, where there's only two original stories in this one. The Supergirl story, obviously, and there's a one-shot story called These Are the Starmen. Yeah, it's basically a story about aliens. I gotta make some references to aliens. So, in the Supergirl story, it's mostly her deal with a mind warp for a whole issue. Lee does the writing for that one with a co-writing credit by Raymond Marlis. For 421, Marvel writes the opening story. Steve Skeets, Mike Sawalski does the, pretty much basically this just deals with another backstory of, it basically retells the backstory of Supergirl in this one. I kind of forgot his name was in this one. So, and by the way, this name broken, it is a long story. It's longer than the other stories. Santa here, it's a one-off for her. In 422, it's basically her versus taking on alien invaders, and then we have a return of the Vigilante, who is just deal with a crooked, basically some crooks. It's written by Bill Meredith, or by Gray Morrow. It's a very interesting one. And then 423, I think this was Supergirl's last issue. No, it was a penultimate issue where, like, oh, Superman's a fake, and it just, well, her being fooled by aliens thinking Superman's a bad guy. And this is her soul. She actually takes the whole issue. There's no backup page in 423. 3 credited writers: Eno Sobrino, John Albeno, and Steve Skeets. And by 424, Natasha Luther basically they retired the character, and Supergirl herself just deals with this, take out the syndicate, and there's an alien invader story. So 424 will be our last issue, and she written out after this, and then basically for the next 3 issues, it's a series of one-shot stories. So the reason why our feature ended here, because she got a new solo book, which is written by Paul Kupperberg, and it lasted 23 issues, which is collected trade paperback. You actually find it no problem. Thanks to Supergirl TV, we got that collected at the first volume for some reason, but that volume is collected. Where in that book, she's basically with Chicago, and it was during that run, about halfway through it, she started wearing the outfit that she would wear when she died in Crisis on Infinite Earths. Also, her outfit for this run was basically a long sleeve shirt, red short shorts. Looks like small red shoes and Trish red cape. Yeah, and Steve gets rated this one, and Tony Zuga basically on the artwork. So then we have, like, mentioned, like, 425 to 427. It's a series of, like, these one-shot stories. It's called All New Adventure Comics. Yeah, it's like they just didn't have a new feature, so they have a few issues just have it be, like, these weird stories, like, oh, we have Cloud, a flying horse, a Pegasus. Yeah, it's basically a showman. We also think called Alien Nazis. Yes. And then we have John the Gallant. The writing for these ones now, for these 4 stories, now Captain Fear will be the only one that was a recurring feature here. Though this is not the same character, which Chuck doesn't create. Oh, this is a complete different character. So, he would actually be around for Adventure Comics from 425 to 429. He would leave and come back for 2 more issues, and then he would be done with this book. Yeah, and it's mostly him being a pirate. At one point, freeing a woman. Now, at times when you see his early appearances, he does not wear a shirt at all. There's also this woman who claims she frees her like he's basically like, oh, happened to her father, but turns out the father was not really a father, actually her owner, because she was bought as a slave. And he was kept in his cabin, but apparently when he died, like, she got the ship, and he went off on his own. And it's not like he met with her. He's like, nope, I'm basically leaving. Now, 426, the opening story. This is the debut of a group known as, it's a feature that lasted for a few issues, called The Adventures Club. Yes, it's a story. It's a feature that lasted for 426, 427, and it wrapped up 430, excuse me. It's led by a guy called Nelson Strong, who actually would be around longer than these issues. Yeah, he would later pop out on the pages of Swamp Thing, of all places. Yes, Swamp Thing. Yeah, it's just a series of, like, little fun stories. Why not? And then we have Vigilante pop up again. In 426. In 427, started out with a Adventure Club story, then one more Vigilante story, and Captain Fear. This is the one with the Dog Keeper. 428 is a historical issue. Let me show up the cover here, because of course this is a really big historical issue, because we have debut of a character who has popped up. There's a few different versions of this character. We have debut in 428 in this 3-part feature that's back episode featuring Dr. Team. Debut of the Black Orchid. Yep. I don't know if you can see her. But yeah, Black Orchid. This is actually her debut appearance. This is, of course, for appearance of the original Black Orchid, Susan Linden, who's here for these first 2 issues, and then sadly, but she got killed off in the first issue of the Black Orchid miniseries from Vertigo. Yeah, she died. And then, of course, basically, they debuted her replacement. There was also another creature, second Black Orchid, who was only around for this miniseries, and she was wrong for the following volume. Yeah, mostly put. There's also a woman named Susie, or just a child version of. So she'd be sort of the sister of the original. Yeah, it's kind of weird because they did weird stuff with the character. Yeah, will she only be here for these few issues? And then she pop up as a backup feature for Phantom Stranger. Yes, she became a feature in all books. Phantom Stranger, for some reason, she had a feature in that book. Yeah, it's mostly her just fighting these other criminals. It's just a smash hero, and then we have Doc 13, or basically we have him, and then basically these two. Now, then he's in one story. Then we have one more Captain Fear story, which I think gets wrapped up by 4:30. Well, 4:30 is the final appearance of the Adventures Club, but I think this was the last time we saw. I think this was the last issue that featured Captain Fear. No, he's actually back for a few more issues, but yeah, it's another appearance by him. Well, 4:30, of course, was the last feature to feature, well, Black Orchid. Yes. They apparently adapt this for the Angel Black Orchid in the Black Orchid Annual for part of the Jones Crusade stuff. Yeah, and then when they end this feature, they had to continue the pages of Phantom Stranger. Now, of course, basically, each issue is done by the same. Now, who's the writer of these three issues? Well, Sheldon Meyer. He actually created this character. And he passed away in 91, sadly. But he created this character. He also created Red Tornado. Which one? I think he created the robot one. Oh no, he created the he created Ma Henkel. That's what he created, and he also created Sugar and Spike and Scribbly, just a cartoonist. But this was pretty late in his career too. He would pass away like 18 years after the story wrapped up. He passed away in December of 1981. Yeah, but that's pretty much it here for Adventure Comics. I did enjoy the Supergirl stuff. Black Orchid, that was really cool. I did also enjoy the Santana stories and Vigilante. Dr. T was really cool. I like Captain Fear. The one-shot story is okay, but it's interesting the fact we have all the stuff here going in this one. So you're like, wow. Yeah, the Supergirl feature was quite lengthy. Excuse me. The reason why she was here was because her feature and Legion of Superheroes swap books. So they put her here. And here's something really weird, though, about this feature. None of it's in trade. None. The Black Canary wasn't in trade. But, oh, you're probably thinking, is the Black Orchid issues, are they collected in trade? I don't think so. You would think they would collect like the Black Orchid shape paperback for, for Black Orchid herself. I don't think so. Not really, no. And by the way, the second volume, no trade. None. That might be something explored in future. But let's wrap it up here because basically I still got more stuff to watch. So that's pretty much it for the video. Please be sure to like and subscribe to notifications. So next up is Case Closed. Okay? Bye.